Look at us loose. King and I don't have much in this world. We only have each other. So if that dumb crown is important to him, it's important to me. And besides, us weirdos have to stick together, you know? Well, we owe you one. Now let's get out of here before the warden finds us and loses his head.
Too late.
Ow! Oh, I hate it when that happens.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Castaway Anime. I'm your host, Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels, unfortunately not able to make a different version of my name again because I didn't have time to come up with one. Oops, I'll think of something next time. I'll be like...
just bring back Ev.
Oh yeah, I'll introduce myself as Ev one time randomly, or like I'll be Scorched Toast. Hey guys, I'm Scorched Toast. Welcome back to another toasty video. That's gonna be my catchphrase. We're getting toasted in here.
I'll actually unsubscribe and then unsubscribe you from living. And today, we are celebrating, kind of, the 1-year anniversary of Castaway Anime.
What is the exact date we started this?
I don't know if today's the exact day, August 8th. It's as far as YouTube is concerned, I believe it's August 23rd when the first episode came up, or went up on the channel.
That is way later than I thought it was. I thought it was like July.
I think we recorded in July, and then I just wasn't able to get the audio all set up for the first podcast until August.
Alright, that makes sense.
And so we had this plan way back, like nearly a year ago, where in order to sort of break the ice between ourselves, we were like, hey, let's do a special thing where we cover each other's favorite show right now, and to get a better idea of what we like, and just to share our favorites with each other. And so you picked March Comes Like a Lion, which will go up next week by the time this goes up on the channel. And then today, we're covering the goddamn best anime of the last few years, The Owl House. Everyone's favorite anime.
Yeah, I just love that Japanimation, bro.
Bro, the studio Disney went fucking crazy. All the Sakuga. Alright, now I'm gonna stop before we lose the audience. I can already feel the retention time dropping.
I can just feel the fires as they're about to burn us at the stake.
And remember, if you enjoy the podcast, please be sure to hit the like button, head on down to the comments to let us know what you think of the show, and finally subscribe to the channel for more episodes of Castaway Anime and other videos. Yeah, but for any anime only fans watching, this is an important message for you. There exist shows beyond anime. If you're a fan of just animation in general, you should be watching other shit outside of your Japanese bubble, and this is the best place to start. The Owl House is the best cartoon airing right now. You know, it has been for the last 2 years.
It took me a while to realize that, countries other than Japan made animation. But this one, I tried it out, and I must say, very kino. Mucho kino.
It is. It is my favorite, one of my favorite cartoons of all time. It is not yet my favorite. It has to end first before I can slap it with the final definitive score, but it is on track to be my favorite cartoon of all time, supplanting Steven Universe and BoJack Horseman.
I am not surprised by that. Just a bit of context, for the longest time, my favorite cartoon has been Gravity Falls. I watched it all the way back in like 8th grade. I've told Neon this like 3 times at this point. He's probably tired of hearing it. But I watched it in 8th grade and really loved it. And to this day, it is my favorite cartoon. But The Owl House could supplant it. Based on the first 10 episodes, it is likely if it keeps up the quality and then does a few more cool things on top of that. I think it could possibly supplant Gravity Falls. It'll take some work, but
It's going to. We're covering season 1A, which is the first 10 episodes, and then it went on hiatus for a bit, and we're going to be covering all of the Owl House before the final season of 3 episodes comes out. There's currently no time for that, but it will, and it's sad, and fuck Disney for cutting it short.
The rat hates us all.
Yes, I have this wildly successful and popular and critically acclaimed cartoon in my hands. I think I will cancel it prematurely. I feel like that won't backfire in any way.
It's just such a confusing decision. I mean, we were talking about this before we even recorded today. Like, I just don't get it.
I would even go as far as to say that the Owl House is the best thing Disney as an entirety in the whole, like, fucking multi-billion-dollar conglomerate has put out in the last few years.
Oh, damn. Although, I guess in terms of movies, a lot of people have had criticisms for those recently, so I guess maybe the competition isn't as stiff. I don't know.
The only Disney things I could say I've enjoyed to the extent of that I have the Owl House even remotely close is Avengers Infinity War and Moana. I haven't seen Encanto yet. I know people be going crazy about that.
I actually have seen Encanto. It's a 5 out of 10.
How would you compare? Oh, you didn't like it? Oh no, you fucking.
It's just okay.
No, there's a crossover between Owl House and Encanto
Oh,
Hispanic
no.
fans. You're gonna bring upon the devil on our doorstep.
Crunchy back at it again with another classic crunchy hot take.
The Owl House is a Disney Channel cartoon. It had the unfortunate circumstance of coming out in 2020 when Disney really should just wise up and be like, you know what? Maybe it's about time to axe the Disney Channel and bolster our incredibly popular streaming service with an exclusive show like The Owl House.
So The Owl House was
that-
like a streaming exclusive? Or do you want it?
No, I'm saying it should have been.
Well, why is that?
Well, I think Disney Plus is like their main big export right now. They're going hard on it with all the Star Wars and Marvel shows. But as far as animated content, the only thing that's on Disney Plus is I can like name them on one hand. There's fucking Marvel What If, which is still technically I think part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for some reason, so that doesn't really count. Star Wars Visions, which was it's exclusive, but it's also kind of outsourced. It wasn't made in-house. It's just a bunch of anime studios using the Star Wars world and aesthetic. And Monsters at Work, which is a Monsters Inc. Cartoon that takes place after the show, which is okay. After the movie, rather. But like, there's no Disney Plus exclusive animated show that's like, oh, this is like the one. This is like the guy.
So you think it would get the show like, and probably the streaming service like more eyes on it and more revenue?
I mean, Disney is an animation studio. I would assume that having a popular animated television show that they would also, goes without saying, but they'd have to push it as hard as they push their Marvel and Star Wars shows.
I mean, hey, this is a show that deserves to get pushed really hard.
This show got, in spite of Disney's best efforts, this show got popular through word of mouth. Like, the people who stuck around were like, oh yeah, it's good, but then certain developments in the story and characters came along, and people, like, more eyes were turning in this direction going, ooh. And now, season 2 is been done for a few months now, and without fail, like, and I think this entire past month, I have seen the Owl House trend on Twitter almost every day.
Well, I barely use Twitter, so I wasn't really witness to that, but damn, that's nice. And I mean, even
Yeah,
10
even
episodes into season 1, I'm pretty much hooked. Like, I'm here for the ride. So, I can only imagine how good it gets from here on out.
I want to make sure that I have my information correct here. I don't want to be purposefully misspreading information on the internet. I want to make sure that here we go. The Owl House was Disney's most in-demand children and family TV series of July in the US.
Basically, the rat is dumb. Why would you cut this short?
And it was the most in-demand children family TV series of all in the country out of all the networks in the month of July, only losing out to Sesame Street and SpongeBob SquarePants, two of the most popular fucking children's programming of all time, and have decades worth of a legacy. And this show that is only 2 years old is coming in like standing among the titans, basically.
But sadly, the rat got out its guillotine and was like, nope, you don't need...
Doesn't fit the Disney brand. We greenlit you in the first place because we figured you'd fit our brand, but ooh, you know, it was just a little too gay for us.
That is just a crime.
If they don't, they have a few more months to rectify this decision and be like, hey, let's give Owl House an extension. Just fucking, the easiest thing to do is be like, hey, Owl House sequel series, or Owl House, like, even a fucking prequel with just following the characters like Ida when they were younger. It's so easy. There's so much more that can be done with this, and you know that Dana was like planning for more than 3 fucking seasons at least.
I mean, just judging based off of like the first 10 episodes, it does feel like a show that could go on for a long time. You know,
because
it's not like Gravity
boundless creativity.
Yeah, it's not like Gravity Falls where it kind of always had an expiration date. It feels like something that could last just like it could go on for a long time.
I would argue that Gravity Falls had an equal opportunity to go on for as long as Alex deemed fit, because, well, he made the conscious choice to be like, okay, I have the story in mind and I'm gonna pace it as such, but you could definitely imagine a world where Disney was like, hey, what if we took these little mystery, like, weirdo creatures that inhabit Gravity Falls and make it a sort of like a mystery/monster of the week kind of show. You could it wouldn't be as good as the product we got from Gravity Falls, but you could definitely see how they could do that.
I mean, they could, but I don't think it'd be the correct decision. I think it was...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wouldn't be the correct decision, but it could be a decision. It's not like outside the realm
you
of
could always
plausibility.
extend a show arbitrarily. It's just more of a matter of if you... Yes.
Fairly Odd Parents.
But the real question is, should you? And I think Owl House is one of the cases. I mean, granted, I'm talking on my ass right now because I haven't finished it, but it seems like one of the cases where it should have.
Yeah, this should have gone on for as long as Steven Universe did, at least. Even like Steven Universe fans got pissed because I think Cartoon Network did end up cutting the show shorter than originally anticipated. But even then, that show got fucking 6 seasons and a TV movie. Steven Universe ran its course. Gravity Falls ran for 2 seasons, which I still think was, even though it was all Alex's decision, I still feel like it could have gone on for 1 more season. I feel like he cut it a little too short, left some things to be desired. It's still incredible that the show is as good as it is in spite of its length.
I mean, true, it could have run for another season, now that I think about it.
And Amphibia ran for 3 seasons, also the creator's decision. I feel like it could have gone on for a little longer, but also, it's for Amphibia's problem, it's less of he didn't want it to go on for too long and more of what he did with the time that he chose to have. he kind of wasted it on things that didn't really matter and should have focused on elements of the story that actually mattered. But we'll get into that if we ever decide to watch Amphibia.
I mean, hey, I'd be up for it. I will say I am approaching this from an anime viewer's perspective that is used to having shows last 12 episodes, 24 if you're lucky. So,
yeah, see,
to me, I'm hearing...
Hey, anime fans, that's the nice thing about watching Western cartoons. If you like a show, chances are there's going to be more than 12 episodes of it.
So, like, I hear people... I hear you going, like, oh my god, it only got 40 episodes? They cut it short. And I'm like... Damn, I wish all my favorite anime had 40 episodes.
Yeah, how's that new game season 3 coming along?
Don't remind me. It's a touchy subject. Although apparently, according to Vlusky, the final volume of New Game was like completely rushed, and he hates it.
Oh no, well, we'll have to save that for another time.
Yeah.
Then. So now focusing on the Owl House. Anime viewers, this is your chance to broaden your taste and learn some good taste outside of your little bubble. This is where the good shit is at. Owl House, really fucking good. Crunchy, as the Owl House version of this podcast, what did you think?
Well, a bit of context. I binged all 10 episodes in a single day when I didn't even need to or... It really didn't even want to going into it. I wanted to save some of the episodes for the next day. But you know how when you're binging something, you sort of get into a groove, like if it's something you really like, where, you know, before you even consciously realize it, you've already clicked on the next episode button on whatever definitely legal streaming site you're on. A little bit of an anecdote for the Owl House here, right? I was taking notes of all the episodes, or at least I was supposed to, but the process of going on to the next episode became so automatic that I literally, like, forgot to write down any notes for, like 2 episodes straight. And then after that, like, after I noticed that, I was just like, you know, I'm just gonna give up on taking notes. I'll do this from memory.
So you don't have many notes?
I have a lot of notes for the first 5 episodes and then none for the latter half because I was just binging constantly.
I have 10 pages of notes.
Jesus, I have 2. How?
It's on fucking 16-point font, and I have 10 pages.
Okay, well I'm on 11-point font, so that makes sense.
Okay, Here's a better metric. I have nearly 2,000 words worth of notes.
Jesus fucking Christ. Okay.
And I had a similar problem to you, where it's like I pushed through and kept as many notes as I can, but like I had this issue. It's like, but if I pause the episode to take notes, that's time I'm taking not watching the Owl House.
Okay, I have 477 words of notes. So way less.
Granted, this is my first rewatch of Owl House. I've already seen all the way up to season 2 because I'm a major fan, and I rewatched a bunch of clips of all my favorite moments. But this is the first time I'm starting from the beginning and going through the whole thing again. It is definitely. I'm in 2 minds about it. My opinion of the show has not decreased in the slightest, but it is interesting going from the actual like nonstop perfection of season 2, which I won't spoil the story yet, but I will say just straight up, season 2 of the Owl House is one of, if not my favorite season of television, probably ever.
Oh, damn. That is high acclaim.
There are no bad episodes. There's no wasted time. Every moment of every episode is important. And there are huge ass revelations, great characters, fucking jaw-dropping moments. It's all Kino.
So I want to riff on that for a little bit because I remember when Neon pitched this show to me, like trying to shill it to me and be like, this is good. He was like, there are 2 episodes in the Owl House that could almost be considered filler, and one of them it still has like an important detail, and both of them are in this block. And I was like, okay, so it's a plot-driven show. But then I watched it and I realized around halfway through, I'm not really watching this for the plot, like, at all. And so the main things I'm appealed to about this show, and granted, I imagine it does get a lot more plot focused as it goes on, but to me, like, the plot is nothing right now. I don't care what the plot is at this point in the story. What I care about are the characters and the worlds that they're in, because it all has a very specific texture that I just like sitting in. It doesn't really matter to me if the episode's like a quote unquote filler episode. I'm still just like, I'm excited to be in this world, sitting with these characters, doing things with these people, hearing them talk to each other. It all has a very specific taste, a very specific texture to it that I really enjoy just being in. And I think that's the main thing for me, even more so than the plot, that made this block of episodes so bingeable for me.
Well, let me hit you with a plot twist. Remember when I said there were 2 episodes that would be considered filler or like are not that important to the story?
Yeah.
I was a lying man. I turned around on it was episode 2, which is one of them. The one where Luz gets tricked by the wizard to go on that quest. I was wrong. That episode is crazy important. Maybe not necessarily to the plot, but to the themes of the Owl House.
See, what I really liked, I guess I'll quickly recap the basic idea of the plot, which is that Luz, the main character, goes to this wizard, and she's like, ooh, I want to get a prophecy from a wizard. And the wizard's like, okay, I'll give you a prophecy. The prophecy was a lie, and she went on this journey that was actually just this big trap, and the wizard is actually a demon who wants to use her as bait to bait Ida into basically falling into his trap. All right, it's this twist that's basically here. To me, it's like a tone setter. It's like, this is not your happy, go lucky fantasy world. It's a bit more sinister. I think King even outright states in the episode, this place is like a cesspit of despair. Why would anyone live here? And it's basically here to set the tone of what this world is about. It's a cesspit of despair. It's horrible. Not necessarily a dark fantasy, but most of the people there are like, this place sucks. Why would you want to be here?
Well, it's an interesting position that the people of the Boiling Isles are in, because it's like you could tell that they'd probably rather live in like a nicer world, but because they literally just don't have the opportunity and this is the only world they know, they're just trying to make the best of what they have. And it's not even to the point where it's like, oh, like we're struggling, but it's just, you gotta do it. I feel like they were doing that at some point in their history, but now they've just been doing that for so long that like their fucked up, morally gray society is just been the norm for so long that now its people are like, yeah, this is real life. The fucking monster is eating people in the streets. They ride around in egg buses. It's common to like, even there's a comment that they say in like the school where it's like, they don't want the students to die, but it's not uncommon for them to get severely hurt or even perish. And it's like, yeah, that's just reality.
It's like, I mean, obviously it's a kid's show, so it's not going to be dark or depressing in tone necessarily. Or
not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
No, you gotta give it time.
Okay, I'll give it time then, but
we are in even though the entire thesis statement of the show is the breaking of the ideal fantasy escapism, we are in the happy-go-lucky phase of that.
That is interesting. Because
yeah, all the stuff where like they even in episode 2 where they explicitly tell Luz they're beating the lesson into the head of the main character. Hey, you think that you're just gonna excel in this fantasy world like an overpowered isekai protagonist? Yeah, let's slap you with the cold, wet piss of reality.
This ain't your average isekai.
Yeah, Luz and the characters are getting off easy right now as opposed to what happens in season 2.
Well, that aside, because we'll get there when we get there. It's like, I just sort of love how the entire world is just like this just a pile of garbage to live
It's
in.
the most creative interpretation of hell I've ever
Yes,
seen.
basically that. And it's just a very interesting tone to the world because it doesn't feel depression, but the like despair and like the this is a hellhole that still gets so heavily imprinted on you, even though it isn't like dark necessarily.
Yeah, I love how like I said before, the Boiling Isles has this wave of shit's fucked, but that's just how it is because it's never not been fucked.
Yeah.
I love how the people's wristwatches are just demons with clocks on them, and when their alarms go off, they bite into the wrist of the people who wearing them. And it's like, oh shit, my alarm's going off, and their reaction is, oh shit, my wrist demon is biting into my flesh. Ow, ow, ow.
I wonder if everyone just has like a scar around their wrist from having these watches on them.
And my favorite running gag in the whole show, the school bell at Hexside, it's just a scream. It's just a dude screaming.
That got me bursting out laughing when I saw it for the first time. It's so good.
It's just Alex Hirsch in his Grunkle Stan voice screaming bloody murder every time it rings, and it never fails to make me laugh.
I did recognize Alex Hirsch's voice for the school bell, which was also a really nice touch. Which, by the way, I think he voices 3 characters in this show. The school bell, the guards who always want to take Ida away to prison, and then King.
And Hootie.
And Hootie? Okay. So 4
yeah,
roles.
he also... Uh-huh. Yeah, Alex Hirsch plays a lot of the minor characters, but his 2 prominent roles are King and Hootie.
All right. So he's a very flexible voice actor.
I love how, like, because the bell thing is funny on 2 levels. One, because it's a fucking bell that screams bloody murder when it rings, instead of just a normal bell sound. And 2, it never puts any of the students in a panic. They hear the bell and it's like, oh shit, it's time to go to like the next class, or hey, class is over. Cause like, imagine if that shit happened in like a public school. People be like, think it's a goddamn school shooting.
But instead everyone's just like, yep, that's just how life is.
It's this bold-faced confidence that shit's fucked, but that's how it is. That makes the Boiling Isles so interesting to just see develop before our eyes. Because it's like the show, I mean, the world is a character of the show as much as the other characters are.
I mean, yeah, that's what all good world building is sort of like. And I think the world is probably one of the most interesting parts of the show so far to me.
Yeah, did you notice that at the end of episode 2 when Ida takes Luz up to into the sky to show her something, she sees that all the Boiling Isles is just made up of the skeletal remains of this giant.
I didn't quite put that together, but I do remember the image in my mind right now, and yeah, it does kind of it does look like that.
Like even that is like, it's on the surface level, it's really cool because like, oh shit, it's this entire like society is built upon the corpse of this giant. But then that also gets the noggin jogging, being like, wait, well then, what was this giant like when he was alive? Because like if he is dead now, he had to have been alive at one point. Was society living on him when he was alive? Did he die and then society like came to his body and colonized it or some shit?
Who knows? I think we've sort of been
maybe we'll find out the answer as the show goes on.
Is this a hint?
Well, it is half me saying yes, it is a hint. Also half me saying even if like they never dive into it, it's just such a cool detail that's like a part of you is like, you know, even if we never explain why the whole world is just this giant, it's such a cool detail in and of itself that maybe we don't even need an explanation to be satisfied.
Sort of reminds me of like Sabikui Bisco in that regard, where it's like so many things don't even need an explanation because they're just there and they're just, you know, cool. I feel like we're sort of diving right into the meat of this show right now. So do you want to back up and start actually explaining what the show's about?
Yeah, I want to get your opinion on all the characters first before I give mine, because I'm much more interested to hear the opinions of a newcomer as opposed to my own. How do you feel about Luz?
She's all right. She's probably my least favorite of like the main three characters right now. She is,
Really?
yeah. I will say she's fine because she does have her like specifically the introduction in episode 1 is just so perfect for her, where she's like causing all this chaos unintentionally thanks to her like creative but also completely insane and weird ideas.
Yeah, she's kind of socially awkward and inept.
Yeah, like
And
socially awkward nerd. She canonically makes anime AMVs in her bedroom all day, which I
she
loved.
probably watches Demon Slayer like a fucking normie.
Probably. She's really into
It
this
is-
book called The Good Witch Azula.
Azura. You've got Avatar: Last Airbender on the brain. Another good anime. Tip.
Ah, yeah, anime.
There is a joke in season 2 where it is confirmed that even though it's a copyright distinct brand, Luz is a fan of My Hero Academia.
Oh no,
So there is no saving her.
she's dead to me.
So, so to help her, Luz's mom sends her to summer camp so she can make new friends and adjust her behavior, because Luz is kind of this weirdo nerd at home with no friends.
Not just
And
summer camp, but like this summer camp to turn her into a normal person who can just be a cog in the machine.
Fucking normie.
Yeah.
She, you know that one episode of SpongeBob with the meme where like SpongeBob gets all his edges rounded out and he's all smooth and he goes, "Hi, how are you?"
I remember that episode from when I was a kid. It's basically supposed to.
She's gonna try to turn her into that.
And so she goes off. Okay, well, she's at the bus stop, but then this owl comes in and steals her book, and she's like, "Oh my god, I gotta get my book back." So she follows the owl into this house. Dun dun dun! It's the title of the show, kinda, sorta. We'll get to that, but
It's a shack, not a house.
shack. The owl shack.
We'll get to the. Well, Amity does say owl shack at one point.
Oh yeah, she does. Well, anyway, she ends up going through this door that leads her to another world, and it takes her to, I think, the stand where Ida is like selling a bunch of, or like sort of perusing a bunch of stuff her owl got for her.
Yeah, Ida takes stuff from the human realm to sell as goods in the demon realm.
I guess since we were on characters before, I guess we can talk about Ida now.
Yeah, in the first season, Ida is the best character.
It is close. Like, it is very close. I think her and King, I both adore them and think they're like such a perfect duo. And I'll get more into their dynamic later. You were saying?
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you like King now, you're gonna really like him in season 2.
Oh, nice.
Well, actually, that's not entirely fair for me to say, because that applies to literally all characters in the Owl House. Even if you might not enjoy a character as much now, season 2... in fact, now that I think about it, I don't think I fully fleshed out this point before. Coming back to season 1 after just getting off of season 2, it's reminded me that, like, man, this show was good before, but, like, season 2 is so incredibly, unbelievably perfect that it kind of makes season 1 almost retroactively worse. Not actually, and it's not like I'm watching season 1, it's like, oh, I'm seeing all these flaws that I didn't before, and now I'm having not as good of a time, but it's just like, man, this show was good before, but like now I'm comparing something that I thought was like, I'm eating a beautifully crafted, immaculate cheeseburger, and then season 2 comes out, it's like, hey, this cheeseburger you thought was like your favorite thing ever, it's fucking garbage. Here's the fucking double stack, fucking mountain meat, shove it down your throat. It's gonna, every bite is perfect. It's nirvana. It's immaculate.
Oh,
all the positive adjectives.
Oh, things are getting real when the food metaphors come out.
I was gonna say, if it's like eating. I was trying to compare it like something to Five Guys, but then I was like, oh wait, I can't compare the best fast food burger in the world to anything else because Five Guys has that shit locked down.
So I will say I like Ida a lot. She's like, her character is basically this like sleazy criminal who like pickpockets
She's
constantly.
female Grunkle Stan.
Yes, she did give me a lot of Grunkle Stan vibes. She's like,
She's just a little more quick to be familial.
she's the most powerful witch on the Boiling Islands, according to her word, at the very least, and according to most people's word. And so,
I mean, we have the only person we've seen challenge her is her sister, and it was mostly to a draw.
yeah, and so she's very humorous for sure. And I also do like her voice actor a lot. I think her voice actor really nails the role.
Yeah, I believe it's Wendy Malick, and she does nail the feisty, foxy, trying to, I don't know, I was gonna say cougar, but maybe that's a little too racy for for a children's show. But then again, there are a lot of moments in Owl House, and also if you follow Dana's Instagram or Twitter, she does like to draw more graphic, gory images, and you can definitely tell that she was watching the Owl House and looking at her fan art, being like, I can only imagine like if she was on Adult Swim rather than than Disney, we might get a little more darker content, or even like something on Netflix maybe.
Ida is just an enjoyable character all around to me. She's funny. She has a lot of fucking great lines.
Everyone has a lot of great lines.
Well, true.
But she and King do get the funniest lines of these episodes.
Yeah. Like, the dialogue in general is really good, but their dialogue is particularly good. So anyway, back to the plot recap of the first episode, I guess. Ida eventually takes Luz to basically the owl house, because she's the owl lady and she lives in the owl house. And at the owl house, they meet King, who is looking for his crown. And King's this little demon dog with like a skull on his head, and he's adorable and tiny, and he's always like, I'm the most powerful person in the world. Well, I guess not a person, but I'm the most powerful
He's the
being.
king of demons.
Yes. And
he's Bill Cipher.
His voice is literally, I think you told me this before I watched the show. His voice is Bill Cipher without the filter.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I love King's voice. I think Alex Hirsch did a great job, and I think it might be my favorite performance in the show so far.
Yeah, I would say the only person I'd say who could challenge him in terms of delivery is Mae Whitman as Amity, only because she's just doing the Katara voice from Avatar, and that was also a great performance. So, everyone on the voice cast is exceptionally talented. Oh, wait, I just remembered. The person who gives the actual best performance in the show isn't going to be a character till season 2, but when we get to him, I think you'll be able to tell.
All right, I'll wait with excitement for that moment. So the main reason why I like Ida and King so much is specifically their dynamic with each other. Because if I had to describe it as anything, it would be lovingly antagonistic, where they both get on each other's nerves all the time and are both like, you're a fucking idiot, shut up, you're just nothing, but then also they're like super chummy and best pals. It's like, even if they're, they both get on each other's nerves, they're still like, you're cool, I like hanging out with you.
Yeah, they have this really cute, it's weird because like at this point of the show, it's kind of like simultaneously they're friends, but sometimes it feels like they're siblings, but also times it feels like more mother and son, or even just like a person and a pet.
I mean, they're kind of all those things in a way, which is very
Yeah.
interesting.
It does keep the dynamic of their friendship fresh and interesting. They don't have to learn. I feel like this is a positive that the Owl House has over something like Gravity Falls, where I feel like Mabel, for as fun as a character as she is, I feel like one of the trappings that show falls into is that it feels like she has to learn the same lesson over and over, whereas other characters don't really have to do that. Because I there's like a bunch of episodes where the thing that Mabel has to go through is that she can't be so rambunctious and letting her want to, like, for lack of a better term, score her instant satisfaction of like getting what she wants and doing this crazy thing. And she just can't be doing that at the risk of like other people's like risk, or like people might get hurt or people might have to sacrifice in order for her to get her way, and that's not how people live. Whereas with Ida and King, you don't feel like they have to learn the same lesson, but they learn the grand overarching tie between them is they develop more and more respect for each other, but in different avenues, like how in episode 3 King is challenging Ida on who the better teacher for Luz should be, and they realize that maybe they're both not the best teachers and need to play more to their own strengths rather than just being like, oh, you're bad, but I could do this better. Or then say in what's another episode?
The one where they switch bodies.
Yeah, that's more the broad one. That one is the other episode, by the way, that I said was the one that does not matter at all, and is still true. Like, it is the most tropey of the entire season. Not the entire season, the entire series. And going back to it, I definitely had a lot more fun with it this time than I did the first time, because the first time I was watching, I was like, all right, is this going to like play into the story at all, or like? Because not to say that the story is in full gear right now, but it feels like even after every episode, there's like a piece of the narrative moving forward. Like, Luz is trying to learn magic. That's one of the main ongoing things, and she is taking we're not just being stagnant in that goal. There are steps being made towards that goal to make her a witch. Sometimes she'll try to get into magic school, but oh no, she's banned, so now that avenue is like closed off for now, so Ida's forced to teach her, and through her teaching, she's able to learn the light glyph, and now she is able to do magic at least a little bit, but she's still not, she's not growing at the rate that she likes to under Ida, so she's like, hey, I really want to go to that school, so they try to go through a whole thing to get her unbanned. There are steps being made, and the characters are growing. Nothing is stagnant, except for the body swap episode, which is still not a unfun time. I wasn't dreading my time watching the episode, but you can cut it out of the series and you wouldn't really lose anything. The only detail in that episode that's important is that we find out that Ida did want to join the Emperor's Coven when she was younger, and because now she doesn't, something changed in her mentality, and we're gonna find out what it is. But you could have easily just put that in the Coven episode where they go to the convention, and nothing would have been lost.
I do agree with that, but I also just thought the episode was a fun time all around, and it did have a little bit of like developing King and Ida such that they like grow more respect for each other's position. Because before, Ida was like, oh, your life is easy as shit. I wish I was you. I could just lay around all day and be treated like a kid.
I mean, it's fun. It's just that it's like the most tropey, most basic bitch story they could do. It's like the body swap episode. Like even the body swap episode in Gravity Falls was better because I feel like the dynamic works better between Dipper and Mabel because they're siblings and they get to have a better insight onto each other's lives. Because, like, even though Luz, Eden, and King are all essentially roommates living in the same house, there's still there's this connection that they have to build. And while you can argue that the body swap does help them get a better appreciation of each other's lives, I feel like these kinds of body swap episodes work best within family members, because Dipper and Mabel have been friends and bonded since they were born, and they get a lot of Gravity Falls is about them learning to rely on each other more than they already have. Like, I feel like an episode that does that whole sibling appreciation thing even better than the body swap episode in Gravity Falls is the one where they get shrunk by Gideon because they have this sibling rivalry of who is the taller twin is the dominant one. And so they get into a whole spat about that, and then we find out that the reason Mabel was so insecure about her height and wanting to be taller and rubbing in Dipper's face was because she feels so inadequate and not as good at things as Dipper is. And so she wanted to have this one thing that she felt that would make her as good as her brother. And then they come to an understanding that, oh, maybe like it's not good to rub it in the other's face that they're better than someone, and they form their bond grows even better. Whereas in this body swap episode of the Owl House, it's kind of mostly played for laughs.
That
and
is
just, like,
true.
You can like predict how, like, anytime you see a body swap episode, and mainly in Western cartoons, you already know that the joke is gonna be, oh, they're like, oh, you've got it so easy, but no, my life is so hard, and you don't know if you walked a mile in my shoes. And it's like, yeah, I already know where this is going.
And something that I do want to point out is that even though the point is like, oh, your life isn't as hard, or like your life is harder as than I expected it to. A lot of the reasons why they end up getting into trouble is, I mean, in King's case, he was just intentionally causing trouble with siblings, although I guess that did give him more of an appreciation of high school relations. But in Ida's case, in King's body, it was just sort of a random death event, is the best way I can describe it, where she ends up getting taken to this pampering place, but they're actually evil and trying to kidnap everyone and, you know, make them brainwashed. And it's like, well, that's not necessarily giving her an appreciation for King's ordinary life. It's more so just...
Yeah, because how often does King get kidnapped by weirdos that put him in a pet cafe?
I think it could have worked better if she was like, you know, being king, like, that makes me, like, weak and have to rely on others. So that's why his life is hard. But, you know, we don't really get that specific line, which, to be fair, maybe it's, like, more in the, more of, like, an undercurrent or, like, implied. But I think hearing that line would give it a bit more impact if they really wanted to go with, like, a character arc, like, make that show or make that episode part of their arc.
Yeah, it's just, there's just not really much to be taken away from the body swap episode, which is why the fandom at large universally agrees that it is the weakest of the episodes and the worst of the series. And even then, if this is the worst that the show has to offer, that is a far cry from other TV, just other Western cartoons, because there are bad episodes of even some of my recent favorites like Steven Universe and Amphibia. I'm trying to remember. I don't think there is a bad episode of Gravity Falls.
Roadside Attraction. Everyone hates that one.
Oh, isn't that the one where Dipper hits on all those girls? Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that one. I remember...
I think most of why that episode is hated is because it should have been, like, way earlier in the series, but instead we're getting it, like, right before the finale, when it should have been... like, first half of season 2.
Yeah, I feel like that was just another instance of Alex Hirsch cutting his show a little too short. Because now that you point that out, it does seem a little weird that Dipper, again, he's also 12, so you can't really hold this against him. But he's just kind of becomes a womanizer, uh, just a kind of a playboy, just to hit on all these girls. And it is in the sense, to boost his confidence, because he was very inept around women before, and this was the opportunity he wanted to boost his confidence. It wasn't the best way to go about it, but also it's a 12-year-old hitting on other 12-year-olds.
I mean,
Like,
to be fair,
is this,
part
like,
of
the
it was that Grunkle Stan was sort of telling him to do this and egging him on. And I guess the lesson he was supposed to be learning was that, like, consider other people's feelings in these sorts of scenarios. Like, romance isn't something you just start with someone and then end willy-nilly. It's something that, like, has weight with people and will hurt them if you treat it the wrong way. My main issue
I
with
forget,
it,
because I remember that Candy, the Asian girl, was attracted to Dipper in that episode.
oh, she was.
Did Dipper? Yeah, I forget though? Did Dipper hit on her the way he hit on all those girls on his road trip, or did like his newfound confidence just attract Candy to him, and he never hit on her before?
I think his newfound attraction made Candy attracted to him, but then like he turned into a douchebag, and she got unattracted to him. If I remember,
I was gonna say if. Yeah, I feel like that's what happened, because I feel like if Dipper hit on a friend that he knew, then played it off as like him just like going out there just to boost his confidence and play with ladies' hearts. If he did that to a friend, that'd be fucked up.
Yeah,
like that would be very out of character for Dipper.
Well, that was a bit of a tangent.
Well. Yeah, even then, like, we have to even argue. Gravity Falls is such a good show. We have to argue if that episode was even bad or not. But, like, yeah, if this body swap episode is the worst that Gravity Falls has to offer, just a filler, ultimately throwaway episode that's not even that bad of a watch, like, it's like, the highs this show reaches are, whew, they're piercing the heavens.
I did not, like, you saying that was the bad episode of the show, and like everyone universally thinks it's like the least good one. Like, that was surprising, because to me that was a very enjoyable watch. Like, I was not bored at all during that. I thought
I was not bored watching any of these episodes. I was more engaged in some than others. I was actually, while I was watching, I had this idea for a video planned where I rank all of the episodes of The Owl House by season. And I was like, hey, this rewatch, I can, for the podcast and for this video, I could kill two birds with one stone. So I've been ranking the episodes as I've been going along.
So that's why you took so many notes.
That is part of the reason.
On the subject of making viewer, were you going to say something?
I was just gonna ask, what did you think was the worst episode of the 10 we've watched?
Honestly, probably the body swap episode, like everyone else, just because it was the least, it had the least meat to it. And I do remember at the beginning of the episode feeling just the slightest sigh in my heart, because I was like, I could sort of feel it coming. I was like, oh, this is just a nothing episode, isn't it? It's sort of just for the laughs. But I mean, I had a good time with it, and was actually pleasantly surprised by the end, because I thought it was better, like it was better than I expected it to be. So if that's the worst this show has to offer, that is a very good sign.
Yeah, there are gonna be some moments in some episodes where the plot slows down a little. It's a little more slice of lifey, just hanging out. But once we get to a certain episode, in season 1B, it's like gonna be picking up the pace gradually. And then as soon as we hit episode 1 of season 2, it is nonstop, foot on the gas.
All right, so I'm on the subject of not being bored, right? So I am a jaded viewer. I would say that about myself, unfortunately. which is that when I start a show, I am very likely to be immediately put off. So, what did the Owl House do to immediately endear me to it? I think the first episode of the Owl House is like absolutely perfect, like the best way this could have really started, honestly. And
Yeah,
the reason for that.
in my ranking of the first 10 episodes, I have episode 1 as the second best.
Okay, so that is a good indicator of like just how solid of a start this is. And the reason why is because, well, first of all, it establishes things very quickly. You know, we get introduced to all the major important characters, and we learn what they're about. But what I really like is how specifically it introduces the world. Because the entire shtick of the Boiling Islands is that it's a piece of shit. No one wants to be here. And everyone's sort of internalized to that. Everyone knows it. And the first episode takes advantage of this by making you sort of apprehensive, like filling you with trepidation for what is to come. And making you feel like this place is actually dangerous and that the main character shouldn't be here. And
one of the first things that Luz encounters when she's on the Boiling Isles is a little fairy comes up to her and goes, "Give me your skin!"
I burst out laughing. And I think I really.
And then her immediate next thought is, "Oh shit, am I in hell? Am I in the bad place?"
Yeah, and another thing it does, right, is that it makes you question the intentions of Ida and King at first. Because at first, Ida's like this sleaze that is running from the law, isn't like very openly a criminal. And, you know, she literally takes Luz to a prison and is like, here, you're gonna raid this place. And then King is this guy who, according to Ida, has lost his crown. And he needs to get his crown back in order to gain his powers again. Because someone forcefully took his powers from him. And so what's running through your mind at this point is, okay, Luz is being taken advantage of because she's a human in order to put these, like, clearly not great people into power. But what it actually turns out is that King is basically this Chinibio who is pretending
that
to
is
be
the
a
best
king.
way to put it.
Yep. He's pretending to be king. It's like this Burger Queen hat, and he puts it on, and he's like
it's
so joyful.
It's the Burger King paper crown.
And it's not only that, but the prison, like the first thing we really learn about the Boiling Island, other than that it's like this place for monsters, is that there is no freedom of speech.
I can't let this go on anymore. It's the Boiling Isles.
Boiling Isles. But Isles is just short for islands.
Yes, but also if the comments don't call you out on it, I will.
Is it really? Do people really get onto you for calling it the Boiling Islands? Isles is just short for islands.
Well, I feel like it's just gonna be one of those things where the comments are going, actually, it's the Boiling Isles. Like, you're not wrong for calling it the islands, but it's just gonna be one of those things where you're just gonna have to commit to memory lest we be flooded with comments being like, man, the way this guy says Boiling Islands is driving me nuts.
You know, if someone comments about that, I'm just gonna reply to them, "You're" with an asterisk.
Your mother. You
Yes.
apostrophe R-E mother.
Yes, that's what I'm doing. So anyway, what was I on? Trying to remember where I was at.
The King getting his crown back.
Yeah. So the first thing we learn, other than that this is an Isles for monsters, is that there is no freedom of speech or freedom of expression. That if you're weird, if you're a societal outcast, then you will literally be imprisoned. Which
It's
that's
straight up called the
interesting.
Conformatorium.
It's basically the summer camp Luz was going to go to, except it's like a prison. Yeah.
A correctional facility.
And that is quite... Like, I think that's why it gets so heavily imprinted that this place is just a piece of shit, because you learn there's no freedom of expression. Then in episode 2, you learn that prophecies and all these adventures, they ain't happening. You know, you learn that people die at school. You learn that the criminals are right. All these sleazy criminals were perfectly correct. Like there's all these shops that pop up at night, but they're known to have like criminals and incredibly dangerous people, and like you aren't supposed to go out at night else you get pickpocketed or mugged.
I like how one of my favorite facets of Ida as a character is that despite being the most wanted criminal on the Isles and that anyone who could try to take her in would be handsomely rewarded, no one really tries to like challenge her except for the Emperor's Coven because it's their job to hunt her down. But none of the citizens ever try to like challenge her and capture and throw her in because they can't. She's the most powerful witch on the Isles. What are they gonna do? They're gonna get their fucking shit pushed in if they try. So they're like, all right, we'll just hang around her. We'll buy her shit.
Yeah, I love that about her character because it's like such an interesting dynamic the way she interacts with everyone. Like everyone knows, oh, you're the most wanted criminal ever, but also, we're cool with you. Like we're not gonna take you in. Please don't kill us.
The humor of this show is very Gravity Falls-esque, unsurprising when Alex Hirsch, the boyfriend, maybe I can't remember if they're engaged or not. I feel like I would know that, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got engaged at some point. The boyfriend of creator Dana Terrace is a creative consultant on the show. So a lot of it, she probably came to Alex being like, hey, you already made a show. I'm making the show. You got any pointers? And so it's unsurprising that a lot of the style of Gravity Falls' humor seeped into the show. Mainly the style of humor where a lot of the jokes involve one character saying something wildly outlandish and crazy, but playing it completely straight or normal. And it pairs nicely in this world where the morals are so gray that death is less of tragedy and more of a circumstance of shit happening around them.
That is something I always appreciated about Gravity Falls, which was its very distinct and particular sense of humor, because it really gave the dialogue like such an interesting texture to it.
Punch.
What did you say?
Oh, I said an interesting punch to it.
Yes, an interesting punch to it. And I'm very glad that this show also has that sort of style to it. And another thing I like is that it has that same sense of weirdness as Gravity Falls, except like it's Weirdmageddon every episode. It's that level of craziness just all the time.
Well, Weirdmageddon in the sense of crazy shit going on, whereas in like what Luz encounters rather than the literal apocalypse.
Yeah.
Luz insisting on going home after seeing the Boiling Isles just once with Ida, because she has her quote, her PG fantasy world. It's not like what she envisioned. She has that ideal shattered in episode 1, which will be the thesis statement for the entire show going forward. Having Owl Houses, I know film buffs and people who analyze shows for a living hate this term because it's overused, but Owl House really is a show about subverting expectations.
I definitely see where you're coming with that, or where you're coming from with that. And another thing I think that this show is about pretty blatantly as early as the first episode is that it's okay to be weird. Luz is this weirdo.
Weirdos have to stick together.
And also that. Luz...
that is the other thesis statement of the show.
Luz is like this weird, nerdy kid who's, like we said earlier, into anime AMVs, kind of shy, socially awkward, doesn't have any friends.
Does she have a small YouTube channel with only 61 subscribers where she uploads anime podcasts? It's a little too close to home.
Oh my god. I mean, at least we have each other. And also Casual and Vlusky in the anime server.
Yes. Sure. Let's go with that.
And so we get taken to the world, and it turns out weirdos are also like quite literally persecuted in that world, even more so than on Earth. And the message the show sends through that is that, hey, this is wrong. And on a metatextual level, like, Owl House is the perfect show to send this particular message because it is such a weird show. It is an abnormal fantasy world with a bunch of ridiculous monster designs that feel like they're straight from Undertale or something like that.
There are a lot of Undertale-looking creatures. Tiny Nose is just a Toby Fox OC.
Which one is Tiny Nose?
The little white
Conspiracy theorist?
girl with the orange hair.
Oh. And
Fun fact, she is voiced by Dana Terrace.
huh.
The creator of the show.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. I was you sounded silent, so I was like, I know who that is. Yes, definitely.
So anyway, I definitely like the show sticking up for weirdness and weird art. And I like that the show itself is weird, because not being weird is kind of boring. At least to me. Like, I used to not care about originality in shows that much, but then I watched enough shows to where I craved it.
Yeah, the Owl House is very much letting your freak flag fly. It's very anti. It's interesting in that it's both anti, or it allows characters to take their. The best way to describe it is like it's simultaneously pro individualism but also anti establishment. Cause Ida is very much anti-school. She's like, yeah, school just takes in creative minds and churns out the same in uniform like schlock. That it strips away your individuality. But Luz is very like, yeah, but I'm not learning anything magic related from you, and I want to go to the magic school to learn magic. And Ida is like, at first she's staunchly against it, but then she's like, man, maybe, like, yeah, I have my problems with school, but that's the conclusion that I came to, so maybe I should let Luz come to her own conclusions about school, so I should let her go. So it's interesting that the show is not taking such a firm anti-education system stance just by itself, even though Ida is 100% correct and based for doing so. Haha. That was the moment that I related to Ida the hardest, because I, as someone who went through the public education system from the last few years, from the late 2010s, and was like, man, this fucking sucks.
I was in the education system until, like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months ago.
Did Ida's words strike a chord with you at all?
A little bit. School was kinda hell, especially junior and senior year. Those were awful, awful memories.
Yeah, seeing Ida be so staunchly against establishments like that really struck a chord with me, because I was even back when I watched it in 2020, when I was like, well, I had been graduated from high school for years at that point, but I was still fresher on my school fucking blows ass shit back then than I am now, which not to say that I am less now, it's just I was closer 2 years ago back then because I had graduated high school sooner at that point.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that even though they have a character who is essentially expressing that viewpoint, they're also allowing the individualism, that the show is ultimately pro-individualism, being like, hey, you know what? School might fucking blow ass, but maybe we should let the students come to that conclusion themselves before we just say, nope, it's got to be all taken out to pasture right now.
Which I do think is a fairly good way to go about that message. This is just a real quick aside, but I love how Ida has like her most expensive wanted poster hung in her living room, and then when Luz gets banned from school, she hangs that up right next to her
next
one.
to it?
Yeah.
'Cause she's her fucking daughter.
It's great.
Yeah,
and Ida's like
seeing
so
the-
proud of her too.
Yeah, at the end of episode 3 is when Ida goes from just entertaining her as like as a little helper and a little guest to establishing a mother-daughter relationship with her. And it is very sweet. And it's only going to get sweeter as the show goes on.
Oh, I am here for that.
Fucking found family trope, baby. Literally the best trope in the world. Here's another great moment that further enforces that the PG fantasy world ideal is retarded. Ida, after proceeding to have a really nice heart-to-heart with Luz about, hey, you know what? That crown, even if it doesn't really matter at all, it in the grand scheme of things, if it matters to King and makes him happy, then I need to get it back, and that's all that matters, because we don't have much, but we're weirdos, and us weirdos have to stick together. And it's a real nice moment. It's like, all right, kid, let's get you home. And then the warden comes in, chops her fucking head off, and it's like, and there, Luce is just standing there, scared shitless, holding her severed head. And it's like, yeah, that's a tone shift, baby.
That moment is so awesome. Like, I did not expect it to go there.
Yeah, and then we see that Ida's also able to remove her limbs and head and still be fine.
Seems like a rather convenient power.
Like, it does, like, the first time you watch it, it does, like, make you think, wow, this is such a wacky character. That's a crazy power. I wonder if she's going to be using that a lot throughout the show. And she really doesn't. But it's just, like, a facet of her character. It's like, yeah, I can just, like, remove my limbs. And my head can be severed from my body. But yeah, I'll live.
Sometimes her hand crawls off and she's like, that just happens. You just got to reattach it.
It's just another facet of her character to, like, make her that much more interesting. To be like, yeah, it's just a thing that happens. Like, I got my head chopped off. It just happens when you're older.
So speaking of interesting characters, what is your opinion on Willow and the other dude as of the first 10 episodes?
They have not come into their own yet. They are mainly they're both playing the role of comic relief, Gus more so than Willow, and they're hard playing the role of the side characters who are kind of showing Luz the ropes of school life, but feel less like their own people and more like, to put it as cruelly as possible, narrative tools for Luz to use to get more enveloped into the demon realm, specifically through the avenue of Hexside.
I agree completely. I will say Willow has a little bit of intrigue in that her introduction is basically that she's being bullied by Amity. I think I got that right. And so...
yeah, that's her name.
All right. And, she's sort of like this shy, doesn't really fight back. But then, once Amity leaves, she, like, starts just clenching her fists with rage. Her eyes start glowing, and she's just so pissed off and starts, like, her plant magic starts, like, sprouting vines everywhere that end up grabbing Luz and dragging her towards Willow. And that is a bit of intrigue into her character. It doesn't really go anywhere as of right now, but I do want to see that side of her and, like, that sort of contrast fleshed out more as the series goes on. Gus, I literally feel nothing about. I can't even really pin much of a personality on him.
Gus is definitely more of, like, the chaotic comic relief where he's kind of like, he is a weirdo like Luz, so they do have that in common, but his fascination with the human realm and their culture and artifacts in their magic world, it's like, it's enough to keep him from not being boring, but it's also not really doing him. It feels like it feels like that's what he's all about, when could be so much more to him, and there will be much more to him as we see we get a little glimpse of that near the end of his episode where he brings Luz to school to show him off in his human appreciation club, despite her still being banned at the time. And we do get to see an insight to his character while they're stuck in that detention area, where he's like, oh yeah, I skipped a couple grades because I'm very talented at illusion magic, but because of that, I'm a young kid surrounded by all of these older kids who overlook me because I'm young and they underestimate me despite my talent. So I don't really have many people who respect me, but I figured that because I was like the president of this human club and could had ties with this human, that would make people respect me and like me. I don't have too many friends.
That was definitely like the most intrigue I felt for his character. Otherwise, eh.
Every other episode he shows up in, he is just the comic relief.
Pretty much.
And he's not a bad comic relief. He does have some good lines. They're not quite as good as King, but he has his moments.
I think King is probably honestly my favorite character in the show right now. Like, I absolutely adore him and his dynamic with Ida. His voice acting is great. He's really funny all of the time. Just really like the guy.
The funny thing about how the Owl House goes along for me is that I feel like at the end of every season half, like season 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B, my favorite character changes. Cause like if you would ask me right now, it would be Ida. If you ask me at the end of 1B, it would be Amity. If you ask me at the end of 2A, actually it might still be Amity. But if you ask me at the 2B, it goes back to being Luz.
Okay, so Luz gets quite a bit of development, clearly.
Yeah, the Luz arc go crazy in season 2.
That is going to be interesting to witness.
Yeah, Luz is incredibly endearing now. She kind of feels like a slightly more mature Mabel, where she is like so obsessed with all this stuff that is not real, because like she's not as much in the camp of Mabel, where like she's into all this kitty stuff because she does. Mabel was into all the kitty stuff because she didn't want to grow up. She wanted to like be this like 12-year-old kid forever because that was so much fun. Whereas Luz's arc is more of she enjoys these things, but she also wants to just be taken seriously while still enjoying these things. She's treated as a nobody back home, whereas in the Boiling Isle, she has the chance to be a somebody, and if she can become a witch and then go back home and just be a witch in the human realm, everyone will love her. She'll get so much fucking respect, possibly also fear, because she's doing magic in a world without magic, but, you know, being the only witch in the world would be a cool thing. It would get her attention.
You know, you said she was Mabel but more mature. I say she's Mabel but less unhinged.
Yeah, definitely also less unhinged, because I feel like, though, she was a little unhinged in the human realm because she was a little more destructive than Mabel, and that was the whole conceit of her being sent to summer camp, was because even though she was like being so in touch with her chaotic creativity, that it was upsetting people around her, like when she's like letting loose snakes and spiders in the school for her projects. And whereas Mabel might do that, but she wouldn't be so careless about I feel like Mabel at the time wouldn't be so careless about like other people's well-being.
Yeah. Well, the difference
Mabel
is that
is able to like has friends, I think, but I think she had friends back home. She at least had Dipper.
She was good at
had
making
literally no
friends.
one beside her mom, and like, yeah, like, and like moms are cool and whatever, but like moms ain't your friend the way like friends are, you know?
Well, on that note, I think another part of it is that Luz's destructive nature. Like, at home, you know, that's a bad thing. But on the Boiling Islands, That's
Oh, she
just
fits
par
right
for the
in.
course, yeah. That's just
Well,
normal for the Boiling Islands.
Actually,
I refuse to call it
the
islands.
irony is that her behavior fits in with the Boiling Isles, but she doesn't because she's the only human in a world of magic. So she can't do all the magic stuff that everyone else can do. So even despite having like the personality for the Boiling Isles, she lacks the literal. She's literally physically handicapped. She doesn't have the magic bile sac in her heart where witches draw their magic power from. So she straight up can't. Even though she has the personality, she lacks the physical capability to fit in.
You know,
And it does
I
lead her
do-
to get outcast by some
Yeah.
people like Amity and Basha like to throw out as an outcast.
I was gonna say, oh yeah. All right, so this is sort of a trope in a lot of shows where like it's a human in a realm where everyone else is non-human. And don't tell me whether or not this comes true, but I know it's a thing where like eventually at some point in the series they meet another human. And I do wonder if this will happen in the Owl House. No spoilers though. And then another
Well,
completely
I won't spoil it, but I will say that there is a lot of intrigue in the sense that witches are aware of the human realm and what humans are, because like no one sees Luz and it's like, huh, what the fuck are you? They know that she's human, but they're just so surprised that there is a human in the Boiling Isles.
Yeah. And then this is another like sort of random thing, but what was your opinion on Amity at this point in the story? Like your first time through?
Amity has the most. She'll have the most interesting arc by the end of the season, but going off of my very first impression of her from episode 3, I figured she'd just be the typical mean girl character. But once again, my expectations were subverted because as we go along in the show, we realize there's more to Amity than just being a mean girl. She's actually kind of a nice person when she wants to be. She reads to kids at the library. And like she plays it off as, oh, I'm just doing it for extra credit. But like you can't fake that happiness. You can't fake that how all the kids like love her so much that the demon face kid with the scary voice like, goodbye, Miss Amity, thank you, and she like pats his head being like, oh, no problem, kiddo.
Best character in the show for real. Just that one.
Braxis is kind of based.
At first I was just like you. I was like, generic mean girl character. She just exists because we gotta have the mean girl character. She was starting to grow on me a little by, I think it was episode 7, where they find her hideout in the library and start reading her diary and realize that like Amity has a lot of very conflicting thoughts inside her head, and she's like, no, seemingly a little bit like insecure about herself. A lot more than she would let on.
One of the running themes among all the primary Owl House characters, the cast, is that they feel like they don't fit in, they don't have a place to belong. Luz doesn't feel like she fits in at home. Ida can't really fit in because Ida chooses not to fit in because she goes against the coven system that is like required by law to have people fit in or go to jail. King doesn't feel like he fits in because he is so weak and no one takes him seriously. Willow feels like she doesn't fit in because feels like even though she's super wildly talented at plant magic, she gets slotted into the abomination track because there are more opportunities on this track. It doesn't matter what like your actual skill set is. We'll force you to learn something you don't even want to learn and you're not good at. Once again, another jab at the modern education system because it's what people learn at different paces and excel in different areas, and maybe having someone who wants to, I don't know, be a writer, learn math, or maybe someone who wants to become an engineer, learn about, I don't know, fucking...
Dolphins.
Yeah, I was gonna, there's not a dolphin class in in my high school, but that's another reason why high school fucking sucks. Every class should have a dolphin class. But students should have the freedom to choose the dolphin class. The dolphin class should not be a part of the primary curriculum. But that is the problem that we face, and that is the problem that Willow faces. The Abomination track is her dolphin class, and she don't give a fuck about dolphins. She'd rather learn about fucking elephants or some shit. And that is the plant metaphor that I'm going with.
This metaphor is getting stupider by the second. I love it. All right. So here's an interesting thought I had, like, before I even watched the show, right? I saw a few stills, a few characters, right? And the one criticism I expected to have of the show was the art style. Because from those stills, I didn't really like how the show looked. But for whatever reason, right? Just
crazy.
Crazy. But like once I saw it in motion, like instantly those criticisms just evaporated. I don't know what happened, but just seeing everything in motion with like the animation just made it click with me. I like the art style now. I think it is a good looking show.
It's so weird to me because I thought I would not like the Owl House art style at first because it has this thing where it has like these few little details that you feel like they're going to be massive problems that are like gonna stick with you throughout the entire duration of the show. But then you watch the show and you're like, huh, this like doesn't bother me. At first it doesn't. At first you go from this doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would to this literally does not bother me in the slightest. Like I thought I would hate Luz's stone toss mouth, like how her mouth will always curve up. It's not like a normal just like curved line. It has her upper lip curls up at the top.
Yeah.
I thought that would bother me. Nope. Now I can't imagine Luz without it. I thought I'd be bothered that Luz straight up wears a cat hoodie the entire show. No, well, they also make the wise decision of having the hood part be obscured for most of her, most of the show. You can't even, I forget that she's wearing a hoodie half the time.
Honestly, I forget so as well, but I actually do kind of like the cat hoodie.
Like, it's fun in moments, but like if she constantly, imagine how obnoxious it'd be if she constantly had the hood on with the cat ears.
That is true. It would get a little grating after a certain point, but I like its presence
like, that just kind of
show.
screams obnoxious to me. Because like you want to establish that your character is quirky, but you also want to establish that it is feasible for literally any person to want to go, and believable for any person to want to go up to her and initiate a conversation with her. If I saw Luz in high school, I would not talk to her. I would ostracize her from my peers.
We're part of the problem.
Just don't wear a fucking cat hoodie. It's that simple. My favorite aspect about Luz's design, I love her hair. I love how spiky her hair is.
I do quite like her hair, and honestly, like all of the character designs so far have been really good.
They all pass the silhouette test.
Like especially Ida's design, I think it just looks really, really good. Like it's very distinct. I love her bushy hair. I love
her big her big poofy bushy hair, her yellow eyes, her kind of stocky build. She's pretty tall, but like she even like you can tell by looking at her, she's an old woman, but like she's still. Luz puts it best. She's foxy for her age. I don't think we ever find out exactly how old she is. I think she's, if I were to just take a guess, probably in her 40s or 50s. Given how old she is, I would probably say 50s.
Yeah, 50s because she has straight up gray hair. Like, that.
Yeah.
I love her dress, too. It gives the impression... Like, she looks like the kind of person who would, like, rummage around the trash looking for stuff, but it also has a little bit of class to it, almost.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. She does look both kind of, like, refined enough for society, but also what straight up is excited to be like, hey, this monster that swims on the ocean died from all the salt water, and essentially this corpse washes up on the beach, and my first instinct is to go to it and pick at it with a pickaxe and rummage through its corpse for trash I can sell to customers.
That opening gag to the episode was fucking great. And another thing, like on the topic of the show's visuals, the animation quality is pretty good. There are some parts where it really pops off too.
Yeah, the best sequence we've seen thus far. There will be sequences like it in as we go along, but easily the best cut thus far is the whole fight scene between Ida and her sister Lilith. In episode
that looked really good.
5.
Weirdly enough, the animation cut that got the most out of me was, I think it's episode 4, where King is running from Ida as the owl monster.
I know exactly which one you're talking
and he's
about.
Running...
There's 2 cuts that are really good. There's is the one you're talking about the one where it's revealed that the beast is actually Ida?
No, it's one where he's running. It's a few consecutive shots of him running down the hallway that are really oddly well animated and flow into each other like perfectly. And it just has a really nice rhythm to it and looks great and feels great to watch.
I thought the shot you were that is also got no shot you're talking about. That is a good sequence. I thought the shot you're gonna talk about was the one where Ida as the owl beast gives that wicked smile when it was finally revealed that she's the monster running around the owl house. Cause like it's like not only is it smoothly animated, it's such like a cool shot of seeing how even though she's a beast now, you can still kind of see the quote humanity that still resides as a part of it. Like she did get fused with an owl beast. You can still see which parts of her are Ida within that whole monster, and just seeing her once like golden eyes and now just completely like pitch black, but still having that same toothy grin. Ooh, that's chills.
Yeah, that was a good shot. And another thing visually about this show is like the creativity with the designs is so utterly consistent. Like it is just like specifically in episode 1, it almost feels overwhelming just how like visual stimulus there is in the form of just wackiness at every corner. It feels like every like single part of this world is jam-packed with eccentricity and intrigue. And I think that is really nice.
Yeah, no 2 characters look alike in this world where anything is possible, which is very good. Even the siblings, like Ida and Lilith, they're sisters, but even them, they're the only thing that they have in common visually, despite like a similar facial structure and their white skin. They look almost nothing alike. Ida has white hair and wears a red dress. Lilith dresses in black and has dark blue hair and green eyes. The only 2 characters who look identical to each other, and this is on purpose, are Amity's siblings, the twins Edric and Emera, which they kind of have to.
Yeah, they're twins.
Yeah. But like, yeah, none of the background monsters look the same. Yeah, you can pause on any like background shot where there are background extras in the frame, and you can pick out like all different forms, shapes, and sizes. But you can also, if you pay enough attention, you can pause it through different episodes and be like, oh, that character that was here he is now, or this character that was here before, now she's in this shot. And it lends a sense of both uniqueness and also authenticity, that it's not just a constant revolving door where we're gonna see one design and then never gonna see it again. We'll see these characters come back later.
And it probably helps.
And they don't need prominent roles, but it just helps lend to the authenticity that this is a world that is lived in.
It does that, and it also probably helps them save on budget, I imagine, being able to
Yeah.
recycle designs. Uh, and like you were saying earlier, I really like the dichotomy between Lilith and Ida's designs. I think it really it does a good job of selling that they're sisters while also like distinguishing them and also immediately showing what their personalities are like through the design.
Yeah, Ida's kind of unkempt and unhinged, whereas Lilith is serious. The serious, straight, perfect, play by the rules character.
Yeah, like that really shows in their design, which is
And
nice.
it also shines in how they fight. Because Ida, like, does all this crazy shit where she's making all these hootie constructs and attacking Lilith with them, improvising her fights on the fly, drawing all these different circles onto the hootie structures, whereas Lilith is, like, very focused, doing even though they're, like, basic maneuvers, like, she's just teleporting, doing fire blasts, she's, like, doing them, she's executing them coldly and calculatedly. So even though what she's doing is not as like bombastic as Ida, it's still visually impressive to watch. Just her dart around everywhere.
I love the uniqueness behind like Ida's power, specifically like making the owls just circle around everywhere. It gave that fight a very distinct feel to it and made it very memorable.
She is the owl lady, so she fights with owls.
Well, she's also the lady because if she doesn't drink an elixir, she turns into this owl monster.
Because she was cursed. And the curse is only getting worse as the show goes on.
Episode 10,
To
the
the point where-
cliffhanger is that she, like, the elixir she drinks to stop the curse is no longer working. Which, by the way, I need to watch the rest of the episodes. I need to know how this turns out. I'm hooked.
Yeah, so before we continue just diving into the show, I wanted to express this opinion. How soon was like your watching time with the Owl House? At what point did you go from, oh yeah, this is pretty good, to I need to watch this now? Like, why the fuck are we recording this podcast when I could be watching more of the Owl House?
I was disappointed that I had to piecemeal this because of the podcast. I'm looking through my notes. It was probably around episode 4 or 5 because that's when my notes start really warming up to it.
I would say definitely Convention episode 5 is the best of the first half of this season.
Convention was great.
Yeah, because it's the one that fires on all cylinders. It's not only is it great world building, it has all of the characters in it, developing the relation. It develops. We get to see the first insight with Amity that maybe she's not as bad as we think she is. Because even though at first she's being a bully to Luz and King, saying, hey, Luz, fuck you, you can't be a witch, you're giving witches in training a bad name, I'm gonna step on your pet's cupcake, just because I can. And they have this little powwow near the end of the episode where after it's revealed that Amity, even though she didn't want to, Lilith forced her to cheat to win her duel. And she's like, you made me look like a fool in front of the Emperor's Coven. I've been working my entire life to get to this point, and you're coming around trying to fuck it up. You can't, just seeing you try to be a witch, you think it's so easy to be one that you could just I'll decide to be a witch. I will just simply choose to go from being a human to being a witch. I've been working at this shit all my life, bitch. And you think you just waltz in and do it like it's fucking easy? But then we see that Luz, even though she's not talented with magic, she was able to, against all the odds, figure out how glyphs work and is able to make light spells. Even though it's ultimately a basic spell, it just makes a ball of light. Amity is impressed with how the fuck did you do that by drawing on a piece of paper?
Just a very good episode all around. You got the fight scene with the good animation. Yeah, it probably is the best of the block, now that I think about it. Some other
Yeah,
good
we get
ones.
introduced to the coven system.
Yeah.
We
learned that
find out that-
people's magic are restricted through the covens, which basically makes
they
everyone
brand
weaker.
you when you join a coven, they brand you with a sigil that seals away all other types of magic. So if you join the illusion coven, you can only perform illusion magic from then on out.
So, you know, a bit of a weird system, probably going to be very plot relevant later on.
Yeah, that's how, because they say wild magic is chaotic, and the coven system is how witches can control their magic and better themselves, so that way they don't fall victim to the scourge of wild magic. But maybe there's more to that story than the authorities would let on.
I reckon
because it feels a little weird that they have to go out of their way to brand people with coven sigils and hunt down those who refuse to join one and those who don't fit in.
I reckon that maybe, far from helping witches control their powers, maybe it's to control the populace.
I mean, it is a show with an emperor, so, and every character who is an emperor ever is evil. So, you know,
Kind of writes itself.
when we find out that Lilith is the leader of the Emperor's Coven, which makes her one of the most powerful witches of all. And even then, she takes orders from the Emperor, who must be like the most super duper powerful witch of them all, the Emperor Belos, who we don't see yet. We just get name dropped him, but we will be seeing more of him by the end of the season, I promise.
Oh shit, nice. Can't wait for that. Some other good episodes are probably episode 7, where they were going to the library. I thought that was just a really fun time. Got to see more from Amity.
It's funny you say that, because I had that as my third favorite episode of this block.
And another episode I like, I forget the exact number, because I think this was around the time I stopped taking notes, where they make the house walk around, and we get introduced to like all the nightstands, like the night market.
That was my second least favorite episode.
Oh, damn. I thought it was a fun time all around.
All of these episodes
Well,
are
yeah.
fun times. I just thought that the least amount of interesting things happened in it compared to, the least amount of interesting things happened in it compared to all the other episodes, aside from the body swap one.
I like in the Walking House episode how the one group of people who was like capturing monsters in order to sell them wasn't able to keep, or wait, no. Oh, this was back when they were still capturing monsters.
Yeah, they go from demon hunters to animal control.
Yeah.
That's cute. I love how like to show how fucked up the society is. It's like Gus is like they're gonna throw him off the cliff into the water to kill him, and it's like, wait, you really envision your life going this way, throwing off kids off cliffs? Is that really how you want to live your life? And the demon hunter's just like, oh yeah, this has been my childhood dream. I was fucked up as a kid. Anyway, push. That is just the morals of how this world operates.
That was a hilarious bit.
Where someone can grow up to be who dreams of being a child murderer and then gets their wish without any repercussions. Or not even so much as a slap on the wrist.
The only repercussion they get is not being able to keep their business afloat. And
Well, that was just
Well,
because
yeah.
they weren't thorough in keeping the kids, making sure the kids were dead.
yeah, that wasn't even specifically a repercussion.
If they killed the kids, they would have gotten away with that shit easy.
Are there... How many more notes do you want to mention? Because I think I'm about
I'm
coming to the end.
I'm scrolling through them right now. Let's see. I'm going through all the episodes, make sure I'm not missing anything important or anything thematic that is important that we might be neglecting. So I think maybe we are kind of done with it. Oh yeah, we'll go into the covens a little bit more. They don't do a great job explaining this. You kind of have to piece this together yourself, but I'll go ahead and tell you now. They do say that there are 9 main covens. The 9 main covens are construction, which we do see, abomination, which we already know about, potions, which we are only slightly familiar with. Ida, we see through flashbacks, was a part of the potion coven, where we see in those pictures that she had yellow on, and yellow is the potion color. Illusions, which is what Gus does. Plant, which is what Willow does. The only 4 tracks that we don't see much of now are the healing track, the beast keeping track, the oracle track, and the bard track. As throughout the course of the show, we will see all 9 get shown off, but as of like this half of the season 1A, they only name drop them and only go into them a little later. But just seeing how the power system of magic works is interesting.
And then, apart from the main 9, they said there's like hundreds of other covens.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of minor covens. They are not important at all, but they're the only ones you gotta give a shit about are the main 9 ones. But it's just it's interesting as a sense of, okay, so we know that most students, or at least practitioners of magic, assign themselves to one coven, and in doing so only are able to use one element essentially of magic. So we're not going to see too many characters like Ida who can use all kinds of magic, just running around whenever they decide to fight or use their magic to solve problems. But in doing so, now we get this idea of, okay, now that we know that these characters kind of only have one element to work with, we get to see all the creative ways that they can use these elements. Like, we'll get to see all the different ways that Amity could use her abominations, or Willow can use her plants, or Gus can use his illusions, and etc., etc. And that will come into play later in the show as well.
And I'm sort of just realizing this, and it's a little bit of shooting the shit, but I feel like with the covens, it's sort of like a metaphor for doing things unconventionally, where the covens is the conventional system that constricts you into doing things a particular way, whereas avoiding that system, like Ida is doing, and basically, rejecting the established norm and being like, I'm going to do my own thing and be unique and creative and weird, frees you to do more wacky things. So it sort of plays into the themes of the show a little bit.
It does everything. That's one of the best things about the Owl House. Nothing is taken for granted. Everything has a purpose, everything has a point, and it all feeds into the grand big picture.
Which is what you want in a show, generally.
The only thing in the show thus far that I feel like was wasted potential that I was reminded of in the rewatching these episodes is there's a line in the convention episode where Amity is revealed to be Lilith's top protege, and you'd think that, oh, maybe they're gonna have a dynamic, kind of like, probably an unhealthy one, but they're gonna mirror or parallel Luz and Ida's relationship in a way, but maybe like a more unhealthy version of it. Nope. If you were expecting any more interactions between Amity and Lilith at all, delete that expectation from your memory, from your mind now.
I did kind of expect it. Okay.
Yeah. Here's the one spoiler. I'm fairly positive they never even speak to each other again after this episode.
That's weird.
It is very, very weird, because like, Dana does say in an AMA that she had on Reddit one time that they kind of had a falling out after convention when Amity finds out that Lilith made her cheat, and they don't really have a good relationship. But it's still very weird to position Amity, who is the rival character at this point in the show, to Luz, the main character. And, you know, Ida and Lilith are already diametrically opposed already. So, you know, this would have been an interesting dynamic to see play out, to see how Luz and Ida and Lilith and Amity compare to themselves to their pupils, and then seeing how the two pairs interact with each other. But no, that's just gone by the wayside. Like, even after some things happen and Lilith never not becomes a prominent character in the show, and neither does Amity. So you'd think that there'd be one moment where they get together and maybe have a heart-to-heart, and maybe like, hey, you know what? Let's bury the past. They just never interact again, which is just weird to me.
You know, I feel like the explanation of, oh, Amity and Lilith had a falling out, I feel like that's a bit of a McGucket went out for snacks moment, where it's just a retroactive explanation for something they sort of either forgot about or weren't able to make happen for whatever reason.
Yeah, I feel like that is the only missed opportunity of the show, because that's just one more interesting character dynamic that they could add to the pile. Because like you can imagine how interesting that could play out, right?
Yeah, like it basically writes itself.
It's just kind of strange to see them not do anything with it. Let's see. Any other topics you want to discuss?
I'm thinking. I think that's about it. Other than we need to watch the other episodes as soon as possible.
We gotta get to the Yuri, man.
My life isn't
I'm
complete until I see
not
the
even
Yuri.
trolling when I was I can't even fucking say it. I'm not even kidding when I say it was the Yuri that got me into, like, interested in checking out the Owl House, because I had heard about it for a while, but I was in a phase where after Steven Universe ended and after BoJack Horseman ended, I was like, man, there are no other good Western cartoons, so I think I might just kind of be done with them, because, like, the two best ones are over, and I don't think there's gonna be one as good as these ones for, like, a long-ass time. And then Owl House comes out literally only a few months, half a year after Steven Universe ends, and I'm like, well, fuck me. Here's another incredible show that I'm keeping up with. It was a clip on Twitter of one of the season 1B episodes that is of a Yuri scene, or at least Yuri. You could even argue Yuri baiting, and I was like, all right, I gotta check this shit out.
I mean, hey. It's like we say over and over again. Just put Yuri in your shows, and then we'll watch it.
Literally, I'm not even memeing. Put lesbians in anything you make, be it TV show, movie, or video game. I will be way more inclined to check it out. Even if it's a fucking visual novel, which I fucking hate visual novels. Even if it's a Yuri visual novel, I will be more inclined to check it out as opposed to any other visual novel.
Just put Yuri in everything. Literally everything.
Yuri, bro, even more so than just like hetero romance. Yuri hit different. I couldn't quite tell you why. Maybe it's like there's a purity in, or like a cuteness to two girls falling in love that's just not present in even yaoi or just straight relationships. There's something about it, man. It just be hitting different.
It just be hidden way better.
When Amity's giggling at Luz's antics in the library, in the library episode, and we see her slowly warm up to Luz, ooh, that gets the Yuri cogs a moving.
God, I'm just imagining like a brain diagram. Like, and there's the cerebellum, and there's the hippocampus, and there's the Yuri section. It's the biggest one in this man's brain.
Here's here's the dopamine farm. The dopamine engine. It goes into overdrive whenever he sees anything, and when he sees two girls kissing or hugging or resting their head on the other's shoulders. Oh, here's the last question. I'm surprised we didn't go into it all. We didn't talk about the actual best character of the Owl House. How do you feel about Hootie?
He's a funny distraction character. If he ends up becoming important, I think he'll start getting on my nerves. But I don't think there's a chance he will.
All right, you're probably right. The show isn't over yet, so I don't know. Maybe they've got like a final act closer. Hootie's gonna be end up being the most like powerful character, and he'll be the one to take down the Emperor or some shit.
Hootie could absolutely destroy Goku.
Probably.
I mean, hey, Hootie's annoying enough that Goku would probably just forfeit to stop hearing his voice.
Yeah, Hootie right now, he is serving his purpose as, it's weird because like both him and King, I would argue, could be like the mascot characters, but as the show goes on, King becomes like an actual character, whereas Hootie just kind of remains the mascot character of the show.
I mean, Hootie isn't really even a mascot character per se. Like who wants to have this annoying owl creature in a door as the mascot of the show?
Well, think about it. He is the Owl House.
I mean, a little bit, but
he lives. He doesn't just live inside the Owl House. He lives as the Owl House.
I do like how everyone constantly beats up on Hootie and is like, "Oh my god, you're so annoying. I hate you."
That will come into play.
And my favorite Hootie moment is when he's like stretched out from the door, like playing in the mud, just thinking about how, oh, they're gonna have to clean me off. Oh wow, I'm causing these people pain.
It's surprising that like he's like just in that perfect sweet spot of he does have a voice that you can see why the characters in the world would view him annoying, and if you had to listen to it for an entire day, you'd probably want to choke the life out of him. But he's tolerable in short bursts.
In short bursts, I'd even say he's funny. I do enjoy his presence.
I like the best part of the body swap episode is a Hootie moment, because when King prank calls Hootie and puts his phone into the speaker to play all over the town just to get his annoying voice to be broadcast all over the market square and be like, "Oh, I'm so lonely. I never talked to a friend before. We could talk for hours and hours and hours, just talk about our feelings and like shit like that." That is the best part of that episode.
And the entire town is just like, "Make it stop."
Yeah. Truly, there is no stop. Hootie is the unstoppable force and the immovable object. The last note that I have was that I'm very surprised I forgot to bring up the boiling rain.
I do like. Well, first of all, it's a fun bit of world building, and I like how
you see why they call it the Boiling Isles, because it fucking rains hot water that hurts when it touches you.
There's literally like this one shot of like a bridge falling out because like the rain has just eviscerated what was holding it up.
There's this cute shot of Willow bringing in all of her plants and going ow, ow, ow as she's doing because she doesn't want them to fucking die.
I love the line where Ida's like, "We don't get weather in the Boiling Isles. We get natural disasters and catastrophes." Just
we get we get it's like we get painbows, but instead of a rain, it's like a rainbow, but looking at it turns you inside out.
I remember. And
then Liz just tightens her cat hoodie and like falls over.
It really just hammers in how much of a horrible place the Boiling Islands are.
It's just kind of hell, isn't it?
It basically is.
Imagine getting caught outside in the rain and you fucking die.
I mean, I imagine every time it rains the boiling rain. Tons of people die because what are
Yeah,
you
like what's
supposed
the
to do?
body count, you think?
Millions.
Maybe it's like a naturally occurring overpopulation corrector. Maybe like when there's too many people on the boiling isles and not enough to sustain through the resources, the weather comes in and just fucking kills enough people to make it stable again.
I mean, hey, it could function like that.
All right. I think that now we're reaching the end.
One more
so
note.
What do you?
I love the OP and ED.
Okay, well, I love the theme song and closing credits theme too, but I also gonna have to pull out my fucking nerd. I gotta pull out the nerd card on you for calling a cartoon theme song the OP and ED for a
I don't
non-anime.
care. I'm still gonna call it that.
Yeah, the theme song does go hard though.
Like literally, every time I started a new episode, I would just get super pumped up once the theme song started because it's such a bop.
Cause the fucking I couldn't tell you what kind of guitar it is. I'd have to look it up. But whoever plucking them strings is going crazy. Whoever doing this, he's strumming up his heart out.
I love the opening
The music in the whole show is pretty good, actually.
I didn't notice it too much. I probably would if I were rewatching it like you are. But
there's a lot of like
it hasn't stood out as
that instrument
generic.
used in the theme song. It wasn't. I would say it goes. It's not generic.
Yeah,
I would
it
argue.
isn't.
Yeah, I would say that it's very in theme with the show. It uses the instrumentals from the theme song. It kind of reworks the melody of the theme song into different aspects. Like we mostly hear it around when we're inside the owl house, or maybe like when we're around Ida. But it's just hearing the da 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 da. It's very good.
I don't really
Gets in
remember
your
that
head.
song, but
That's the fucking theme song.
I mean I remember
That's
the
how it
theme
go-
song, but I don't remember the one.
theme song. The theme song goes da 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 da.
Well, you were talking about a song that plays when Ida's around.
Oh no! It's just a rendition of that
Oh,
song. It's just
okay.
like a less intense version of it.
All right.
Yeah, the music's good, the animation's good, voice acting's good. Everything about the Owl House is just good, and literally everyone should watch it.
I think that's a good way to close our discussion.
So now I'm curious as to this opinion compared to March Comes Like a Lion. Just like the first, it doesn't have to be the entirety of the show. Just like your first impression of that versus your first impression of the Owl House. How do they compare?
I am certainly very excited for the Owl House, but the Owl House, like if you asked me what I would give it out of like on a number score, right? It wouldn't be a definite 10 for sure. I'd be somewhere between
it's not a 10 right now for me either.
Yeah. It'd be somewhere between like a strong 8 to a low 9. And even then, I wouldn't really know where to put it and would be like, I'm going to have to finish out the season. You know, it's not something I'm definitely like, this is great. This is a masterpiece. Sangatsu no Lion, around episode 8, was when I was questioning, is this going to be a 10 out of 10? Because everything is just falling into place so well. And then it was around episode 11 when I was like, yeah, I think this is, you know, if it keeps up this quality, it is absolutely going to be a 10 out of 10. Whereas with the Owl House, if it keeps up this quality, it's probably going to lean more on like the 9, maybe even an 8 side. You know, somewhere around there. So
I will say, as a whole, I would give season 1 of Owl House like a 9 out of 10. Season 2 gets a 10 all day.
well, that is exciting to hear.
Yeah, season 2 does not fucking miss. In the heat of battle, it don't miss. In the heat of controversy, it don't miss.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about the controversy.
Oh no, there's no controversy about the Owl House aside from the whole cut short fiasco, which is less to do with the staff and more of that Disney fucking sucks.
Yeah. We should cage the rat.
Fucking kill the rat.
We need rat poison.
We need to just break up the rat.
Use the rat's guillotine on himself.
Is it fucking what's it called? Antitrust or trust? When we prefer to the policies when it comes to, like, preventing one company from becoming too big of a conglomerate.
I think it's antitrust laws.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. We need just antitrust them. Antitrust them hard. Like, how do we let this happen?
Break up the rat. Dissect the rat.
There is actually one last thing I want to talk about before we close this off. This will be the final talking point. Now, compare this isekai to all of the isekai that's come out just in the past 2 years. It's like just going back to when the Owl House came out.
Oh, right.
Just in the past 2 years. How would you say Owl House as an isekai stacks up to all those? And I'm talking all of them, not just the good ones.
All of them. The Owl House is vastly superior to most of them. There is one show, however.
What would is it Mushoku Tensei?
It's Mushoku Tensei. And depending on the Owl House could surpass it. Like, depending on how season 2 goes, it could surpass it. Like, it is laying a very firm groundwork. So we'll see whether or not it beats it out. But, like, Mushoku Tensei is the only show that holds a candle to the Owl House, really.
Yeah, so now let me ask you this question. What is it that the Owl House does right that all of these other isekai do wrong?
Originality.
Could you be a little more specific? Like what?
So
well, like why is this one so beloved and like no one fucking gives a shit about Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom or fucking the Fruit of Evolution?
Some people really care about how the Realist Hero rebuilt the kingdom, and those people perplex me.
Well, they are few and far between, and they are vastly outnumbered by how many people give a shit about the Owl House.
I'd say the main problem with isekai, and I was sort of ranting about this during our last podcast, which is that every isekai uses the same sorts of tropes. And so if you've seen one isekai, like even one of the abnormal isekai, they still use a lot of those basic tropes. So if you've seen one, you sort of know what to expect from the more generic shows. Whereas the Owl House, it screams, literally screams at you in the first episode, we're all about being creative, we're, pro being weird, and we're going to be as weird as we want to. It's basically grabbing you by the head and saying, we're going to be different, and you're going to watch us be different.
And you're going to like that we're different.
And I certainly
do. You don't have a fucking choice.
That is, I think, the main thing that makes the Owl House special, because like I was saying at the very beginning, I don't care about the plot yet, but I do care about the boiling isles or islands. I don't care.
And you care about the characters.
I also care about the characters because they aren't completely generic either. They have like a spark to them. They have interesting facets and interesting, things going on with them. You got the fact that Ida's like the owl lady and she turns into an owl when she doesn't drink her elixir, and how King is like this Chinibyo wanting, thinks he's stronger than he actually is, wants to be like a demon aficionado, wants to be revered. It's great.
Owl House's biggest strength is its emotional through line through its characters, all having various permutations of the same ultimate want of wanting to fit in a society where they don't feel like they do, or they reject them if they try to fit in for whatever reason, be it loses chaotic creativity, Ida's refusal to fit inside the lines, Gus's youth, etc., etc., etc. And having that as a through line does benefit the story. It feels like everything is moving forward with purpose, and we're not just dicking around in this fantasy world for no reason. Not to say that this world isn't so interesting enough that this could have been a comedy. It could have been like an episodic comedy of just Lou's dicking around in the demon realm over the summer. It could have been like a Phineas and Ferb type situation. And while we're on the subject of how great this character and story are, how fucking perfect is it that this show got the good treatment of having half-hour episodes as opposed to 11-minute episodes?
It absolutely needed that extra time, and I think it uses that quite well.
I cannot imagine an 11-minute episode of the Owl House. Like, the only one I can think of reworking into that time frame is the body swap episode. Every other episode, I feel like you can't rework it without cutting out something important.
Yeah, there are some shows that work well with the formula, like regular show, but this is certainly not one of them. Like, every single episode...
Generally...
You'd have to split them into 2 episodes, basically, if it were 11 minutes.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I tend to prefer 22-minute shows as opposed to 11-minute ones. But Steven Universe is my favorite cartoon of all time, and it did the 11-minute episodes. Granted, Steven Universe was like a master of its pacing once it hit its stride in the story, and knew when to slow things down and when to get serious and put your foot on the gas of the story. Now, to wrap up this whole thing, while we're on the topic of comparing it to isekai, there's one isekai in particular that I feel like this show is the complete inverse of. And I feel like, while this one succeeds, it's the closest thing I could compare it to crashes and burns in comparison. How do you feel about Owl House compared to ReZero?
I knew that was coming up, and
because they're both isekai about subverting the fantasy world expectation, where the main character thinks that, being taken to a fantasy world will just be the bee's knees, but nope, hardships and suffering await.
ReZero was definitely a lot more slowly paced. For sure, everyone complains about the pacing in ReZero. It spends a little too long on arcs that it didn't need to. And I think the characters are a little more generic in ReZero. Granted, Subaru does stand out as a protagonist, but like Rem, I like Rem, but she's sort of, in a lot of ways, just a cute girl, aside from her whole arc with like her inferiority. No, I don't think she stands out as much as a lot of the Rem fans think she does. Ram is
here's the thing about them. Subaru and Rem and Amelia, they stand out among their contemporary isekais because they have a little bit more going on under the surface than other isekai characters.
That is not an achievement.
Yeah, that's the backhanded compliment. Compared to all other shows, they are like, the very best I can say is that they have their moments when they are above average, but then they can, just as easily as they slip into their above average state, they could fall back down to being generic characters.
Ram is, she has sort of like her sarcastic tongue, but like nothing else. Like, she's just sort of there. Definitely the weaker of the two twins in terms of characterization. Yeah, I think the characters in ReZero are just a little less interesting. That's actually the biggest thing that I think the Owl House has. Well, aside from its world, like ReZero's world is completely, generic fantasy, who cares? But the dialogue especially. Owl House had like very witty, charming, creative dialogue with an interesting sense of humor. Was very distinct too, had a very distinct sense of humor.
They don't waste your fucking time when they have to explain something in an exposition, whereas ReZero will take like fucking minutes, whole like segments of an episode, maybe even like half an episode at its worst at a time to explain shit.
See, I never got to the part of ReZero where it was like super bad about that. I stopped watching after season 1. Although I did actually watch the first 3 episodes of season 2 and got bored out of my mind and didn't know why at the time because I remembered liking ReZero. And it's only recently that I came back to season 1 and was like, this is good, but it's not nearly as good as I remember.
And how would you compare the breaking of the fantasy theme that both of these shows are going for? And what would you say Owl House does better than the ReZero in that regard?
It's hard to say. Because I guess the Owl House is like such an abnormal fantasy world that it like completely flips the idea of like a normal fantasy world on its head. Whereas ReZero, its whole thing was that it's not a power fantasy. That was the main thing it was trying to subvert. But it did so.
This is far from a power fantasy too.
Yeah, like the Owl House is also not a power fantasy by any means, and it also tries to subvert that very early on in the second episode. The ReZero did it with a very generic fantasy world, though, and I think that that allows the Owl House to give a far more striking impression of how it specifically subverts the sort of power fantasy, generic fantasy world thing. Whereas ReZero has the same world while also subverting it in a sense. Like its main thing also with its world was that it was just dark, whereas the Owl House is like very distinctly dark. And even being a dark fantasy world isn't really that subversive in isekai when you do also have stories like Mushoku Tensei, which are far darker than ReZero, at least in my opinion, from what I saw.
Yeah, I feel like what Owl House does better is that it more gets to the heart of not only breaking the fantasy for its protagonist more so in a more direct way than ReZero, because the way ReZero does it is that it just kills him and his friends over and over and over. It's like, hey, if you fuck up in this world, it'll have dire consequences, just like if you were to fuck up this bad in the real world. And like, you get that in the sense, like when you compare it to all other isekai, where literally everything goes right and no character is capable of being challenged ever. But here we have a isekai protagonist who is far from overpowered, and in fact gets his shit pushed in once every few episodes, and his friends also perish because of it. Whereas in Owl House, it's refreshing that we don't need to see Luz get, fucking pounded into a bloody mist every time we need to establish that this is not the ideal fantasy she had thought of. But we will explore, not just in this first half of the season, but throughout the rest of the show, we are going to see all of the ways that her trying to escape into fantasy will not only hurt her personally, but hurt her relationships and the people around her. And especially, once again, in Season 2, because I can't stress this enough, Season 2, go fucking crazy. Whereas I feel like ReZero's solution is to just, hey, you know what we should do when things are at their worst? Let's kill Subaru and his friends. Whereas I feel like ReZero was at its best when Subaru's friends were alive, but his relationships were fucked. Like, one of my favorite moments in ReZero Season 1 is when he goes off on Emilia after he humiliates her in front of the ceremony or some shit. And it's like, hey, no, you fucking need me. You owe yourself to me. And it's like shows just how pathetic he is.
Yeah.
And how he really fucks up his relationship with Emilia at that point.
It makes me wonder if maybe Mushoku Tensei is a more effective subversion, even though it does have more power fantasy trappings than ReZero. Because Mushoku Tensei's answer wasn't to just kill the main character. It was to build up a power fantasy, then rip it away from the main character, such that he had to struggle then, using the knowledge that he had accrued during his, somewhat almost typical power fantasy, except done well.
So you mean like Rising of the Shield Hero?
I mean, The Rising of Shield Hero took everything away from the main character in the first episode, whereas in Mushoku Tensei,
I was talking about how it built up Naofumi for a little bit, and then took like it all happened in the first episode, but like he didn't just like get transported into the other world and then immediately lost everything.
Yeah, I mean, Mushoku Tensei goes for the long haul with its, slowly building up this impression of the world of like being actually kind of nice, where like for 8 episodes, Rudius is, I mean, true, he has some hardships, he has to work hard, but he's mostly in a comfortable living space. He literally lives in a mansion for like 4 episodes and gets treated very well. Everyone really likes him there, only for it to then be ripped away from him. And the answer wasn't just kill him, it was put him and his friend's life in peril, such that it was like hard to navigate, but not like so over the top brutal, and where he did have to struggle, especially emotionally. I don't know, I guess it's just a little less over the top than ReZero. Although this is all off topic, to be fair.
Now, well, the reason that I bring this up is that I wanted to reinforce the idea that I made at the beginning of the podcast of how I feel like every anime fan, I'll fucking scream this till I'm blue in the face, because I see this way too often, even with, no offense to you, but even like with guys like you who limit their animation consumption based on their region. I feel like every bit of animation from all across the world should get equal attention, and by terms of their merit, and not just where they come from. Like, anime fans should watch more Western shit. Western cartoon fans should... I feel like... No, not to throw fuel to a fire, but I feel like Western animation fans are more in line with anime than anime fans are with Western animation. Is that a fair claim to say?
I mean, I'm not really too well entrenched into the Western animation community. Like you said, I only really watch shows from Japan.
Yeah, so basically, you're kind of proving my point right now.
I am the shining example of your point.
Yeah, so the reason that I want to champion shows like this to anime fans in particular is to be like, hey, not only are there like good shows just outside of the anime bubble, there are good shows that take anime tropes. This is like, by all intents and purposes, this is just straight up an isekai. But this show does isekai better than all the piece of shit isekais that come out every single season, every fucking handful of them, every 3 months. And you can see it. Maybe it would, if they watched this show, it would give them a better appreciation for the good isekai and give them a more discerning palette. So that way, instead of wasting their time with shit shows like Realist Hero or fucking My Isekai Life or Black Summoner or all those pieces of shit, they can like look at them and be like, why the fuck would I waste my time with this when I know that there is shit like The Owl House or Mushoku Tensei or all these other good isekai I could be watching instead, or at least focusing my energy to get other people to watch it, so that way there are more good there are not only more good shows in the world, but there are more people watching the good shows rather than wasting their time with the bad shows. So that's part of the reason why this is the most important episode of Castaway Anime, despite it not being about anime.
We are having a PSA right now. Neon is on his soapbox.
I'll fucking like scream it until I get put in the conformatorium. Granted, we also did once talk about how, hey, you want to just fucking talk about Celeste the video game at one point and still call it Castaway Anime?
That was actually in the talks.
And I'm still down for that.
I mean, if I ever have the time to replay Celeste, sure, I'd also be down for it.
Yeah, Celeste I gave it a fucking 9.
It's the best game I've ever played, so I guess by default it's a 10.
It's it's straight up your favorite game of all time?
I don't play that many video games, to be fair.
Well, that's another medium I have to break you into, well, except the problem with that is that one will actually require a budget.
Yeah.
Because I can't just be like, oh, you haven't played Mario Odyssey? What the fuck is wrong with you? I don't own the console.
I
Well,
mean,
at
I
least
have a lot of
if
old
you don't
Wii
have
games.
Yeah, I suppose that works.
I don't have a Wii. We lost our Wii.
Oh. Well, a Wii is that's why you got to get a fucking job and buy a Wii for $60 because they're super cheap now.
Oh, I have $60. Okay, I could get a Wii.
But yeah, I would definitely the moral of the story. Everyone should they should be more like Ida and less like the people in the Coven system. Instead of sticking to your one thing, you gotta branch out. You gotta try everything. Because when you try everything, you end up you're more likely to find the thing that maybe you didn't even know you'd love so much. Like, if Crunchy, if not for the podcast, how likely would you have been to check out the Owl House?
Honestly, pretty likely. Owl House and Amphibia were both on my radar for quite a long time. It would have taken a while, but I think would have eventually gotten to it.
That's good. At least then the point that I'll stick in a fork into on that one is it would have taken a while, but now we have the opportunity to cover it now as opposed to later. So you are consuming good now as opposed to consuming good later, and that is a win. We have increased the amount of good media consumption and production in the world by doing this.
Yay!
And hopefully, you viewers at home find the podcast to be good media consumption. So if you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like. Head on down to the comments. Let us know what you think about the Owl House. Give us ideas for shows or any topics to cover. We are not confined by just anime, despite the title. It's just a nice rhyming scheme. And please, oh please, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to Crunchy's channel in the description. We've got so many cool things on the horizon. August's gonna go crazy with weekly uploads. You can't miss it. Especially when we come back to finish the rest of the Owl House throughout the rest of the year.
God, I want to get back to it so badly.
I guarantee you we are most definitely going to finish coverage of it before season 3 comes out. And when we cover season 3, I feel like that's gonna have to become a priority. Like, we gotta get those episodes out as soon for like not only for maximum relevancy, but for like, I'm not gonna be able to wait to watch those episodes.
I mean, if it's as good as you say it is, I don't think I will be able to wait either. I am already hooked.
Like, it's gonna be to the point where we won't even be able to do it. Like, we're not gonna cover all 3 episodes in one podcast. I feel like there's gonna be enough content in each episode that we could do a 3-parter on season 3, just covering each 44-minute episode, and I feel like that will suffice for content.
I mean, hey, we've already been recording for over an hour, or over 2 hours, so, you know, this show's fairly dense with things to talk about, it seems.
And it's only gonna get denser from here. This is, like I said before we started recording, the show hasn't even gotten good yet. The show is good already, it hasn't even gotten good yet.
Oh, God.
Like, this ain't even the good part. But this part here is the end part of the podcast. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe. Do all that stuff that we said before. I'm Neon Manta.
And I'm Crunchy Bagels.
And you'll see us next time.